Hey everyone, how's it going? Azrin here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's Learn Gujarati with Me podcast episode and, of course, YouTube video. First and foremost, I want to start out with some encouragement. I know that learning Gujarati doesn't happen overnight. It's a long-term process, especially if you're aiming for fluency and to be really good at the language. And so I just want to provide you with encouragement and tell you that you can do it. I remember when I first decided to learn Gujarati, it felt pretty scary. I didn't know how to learn, I didn't know what resources there were, I didn't know where to begin. It was especially complicated because let me stop my screen share so you can see me better. It was also very difficult because I didn't know where to start. My family speaks Gujarati. I grew up with it to some degree. So am I a beginner? Am I intermediate? Do I just buy a textbook and start from the beginning? Like I didn't know. I didn't know. My level felt almost very unbalanced in certain ways. Good at this, not so good at this. And so it was very, very challenging. Now, when I was learning completely. I mean, I had people's help, but I didn't have any guide. I had no one to help guide the journey for me. And that definitely made it a lot trickier. So for me, I learned Gujarati really through brute force. That was what I did. Um, I just studied lots and lots and lots of hours. I used every single unproductive resource that you could ever find, and I tried to make it productive. I tried to make it useful for me. And then I vowed that one day I would try and make it easier for others. And so that's really why this YouTube channel exists. That's why this podcast is here, to try and make it as easy for you as possible, as straightforward of a process as possible, to learn the Gujarati language. And so a big part of what I was lacking when I was learning Gujarati is I didn't have anyone to do two things for me. I didn't have anyone to explain grammar rules. So why is this sentence worded the way it is? Why is this word here? Why is that word here? Why is that pronounced like this, but this one's pronounced like that? What's a standard dialect? What's a non-standard dialect? What's all of those kinds of questions? But then also I didn't really have um, listening and reading material that was at my level to consume. And those two things really held me back. And so, a big thing that I'm doing with these videos on the YouTube channel, the podcast, is to try and make those for you. Okay. So, today, let me share my screen once more. We're going to actually look at a listening and reading material for you today, to help you on your Gujarati learning. So, I'll read it to you so you get to listen, and then we'll break apart all the different sentences to make sure you understand all the words, why everything's worded the way it is, the phrasing, so on and so forth. Okay, let's dive right in. Oh, and this is, by the way, just a random text about the USA. United States of America એક મોટો દેશ છે. આ દેશ ઉત્તર અમેરિકામાં આવેલો છે. એની રાજધાની વોશિંગ્ટન ડીસી છે. અહીં ઘણા લોકો રહે છે ને ઘણા પ્રકારની ભાષાઓ બોલાય છે, પરંતુ અંગ્રેજી સૌથી વધુ બોલાય છે. યુએસએમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે, જેમ કે ન્યુયોર્ક, લોસ એન્જલસ અને શિકાગો. અહીં સુંદર પાર્ક ને મોટા રસ્તાઓ છે. લોકો અહીં કામ કરે છે, ભણે છે અને નવી વસ્તુઓ બનાવે છે. આ દેશ ટેકનોલોજી અને વિજ્ઞાન માટે જાણીતો છે. USMI local alag alag. And actually, we're going to stop. We're actually going to stop there. This is a good place to stop right here, actually. I don't want to finish it. Okay, let's go through this together. Let's break it apart. So, United States of America, USA, ek moto desh che. So, moto means big. Desh is a country. So, ek moto desh che. It is a big country. That should be pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy here. Moto, for those of you who aren't learning the Gujarati script, spelled like this. Desh is like this. Okay. So United States of America ek moto desh che. It is a big country. આ દેશ ઉત્તર અમેરિકામાં આવેલો છે. So this country is located in North America. આ દેશ ઉત્તર અમેરિકામાં આવેલો છે. So આ દેશ, I'll type it on the screen. ઉત્તર અમેરિકામાં આવેલો છે. Let's go through a couple things here. So આ દેશ, this country. Uttar means north. This double capital T just means like it means two things. First of all, we're going to pronounce it. We're going to pronounce like a dental T. So we're going to bite our tongue like this. If you look in the top right corner of this video, da 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 da. And this double T, we're just going to hold it slightly longer. Uttar. A little pause. Not uttar, but uttar. 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 A little pause there. Adesh uttar. Uttar America ma. So in North America, aveloche. Avelo has two meanings. Avelo could mean came, like that. But in this case, it means located. It's located in North America. Now, there's a grammar point we haven't covered on this YouTube channel. I'm considering making a whole separate like 20-30 minute video on it. But for today, we'll just do it quickly. I want to focus in on avelo. So you already know if you're at this lesson here, you already know. By the way, if this is your first video that you're watching on this channel, I would highly recommend you work from lesson 1 all the way in order. So do 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Work in order because I do start from like really easy stuff and I build up gradually. So some of the stuff I'm going to assume that you know. I'm going to assume that you've watched all the videos before. So on this channel, on this podcast and YouTube channel, we've talked about the past tense, right? So if I say something like avu, right, we know avu is came, right? We know that avu could be conjugated in different tenses, right? So we could have avu, we could have avio, right? That would be masculine, right? Let's actually take this differently. Right, we could have, let's type over here. Avu, this is neuter. Avio, right, this is masculine. We have avi, which is feminine, and then avia, which is plural. Okay, so like a puppy goes. So this is anyway neuter, masculine, feminine, plural. Now, in some dialects, I'm trying to think of how to explain this properly. I've been actually mulling this over I've been mulling over how to explain this concept for a little while now, which is why I haven't actually made the full video. I'm still trying to mull over really how to explain this properly. It took me a really long time to figure it out, actually. As I told you in the beginning, like I've had to figure out how Gujarati worked. No one really taught me. I had to just guess and learn. So this took me probably a good 6 to 12 months to figure out. So avu has a possible synonym, which is avelu. Avio could also be avelo. Avi could also be aveli. Avia could also be avela. Avela. Okay. So avu could be avelu. Avio could be avelo. Avi could be aveli. Avia could be avela. They're kind of synonyms. Now, there's a bit more to it than that. Avelu, avelo, aveli, avela has some other meanings as well. But we're not going to get into those today. For today, we're just going to keep it really straightforward and just say that there's two ways that the past tense can work. We can have the standard endings that we've already learned, you, yo, e, and ya. We've already covered these. So we have these standard endings, but there's another way we could talk, which is instead of avu, avelu, right? I'll give you another verb example. Let's say something like gadiu, right? Gadiu could also be said garelu. Gadio could also be garelo. Kari could also be kareli. Same, they're synonyms pretty much. Kareli, right? Kariya could also be karela, right? Karela. So मैं काम करियो, I worked, could also be said मैं काम करेलू. This is dialectal. It's not something, not everyone does this. So my family, for example, we don't use these karelu, karelo, kareli, karela. We only do kariu, kario, kari, karia. We only do the first variant. We actually don't do the second ones. In fact, the second one, it's much more, and this is where I'm having hard time finding the words to explain it, but it's much more like, let me stop my screen share. The word karelu or avelu for let's stick with karelu. When we have karelu, for instance, it's much more like um it's much more like something is done. A काम करेलू छे. This job is completed. It's done. No one did it. Like we don't know who did it. It's just done. The same way this door right now is closed, right? Like it's just closed. Like no one's closing it. No one. It's just closed. It just is what it is, right? So akam kare like karelu che. It's just done. Like we don't know why it's done. Who did it? It's just done, right? So that some people will use karelu, kareli, karela, karelo, all those. That's how they'll use it. But another way that you could use it is a synonym for the past tense. Okay, so back over here. So we have this sentence, right? I'll type it again for you, right? Adesh Uttar America ma avelo che, right? So this avelo, if you're wondering, what is this avelo? What's this, right? It's kind of like this means located, right? But this velo ending, frequently in the past tense anyway, could also just be avio, for instance. Okay. So very long-winded explanation. For some of you, that might be too much grammar, which I can perfectly understand. It's totally fine. For a lot of you, this kind of stuff is really helpful to know. And so that's obviously why we're talking about it. Okay, let's keep going. So Adesh Uttar America ma avelo che. Teni Rajdhani Washington DC che. So Teni Rajdhani Washington DC che. A couple things here. So first of all, Teni, for those of you who don't read Gujarati, you're almost never going to hear Teni. What you'll hear instead is just any, right? Any Rajdhani, Washington DC che. Teni and any are synonyms. They mean the same thing. And any means like it's. So it's his or her. Three possible meanings. So it's his or her. Three different possibilities. It's his or her, all three of them. So in this case, we're talking about the USA. The USA is an it. It's not a him or a her. So its capital is Rajdhani, right? Rajdhani. Here it is. So its capital is Washington, D.C. Any Rajdhani, Washington, D.C. che. Or in written language, Teni Rajdhani, Washington, D.C. che. Simple enough. Ain ghana loko re che. Let me actually type this. Let's break this down chunk by chunk. So ain means aya, same thing. Ahiya. So in spoken language, we say aya, and again, we don't pronounce this h very much. Aya, like we don't pronounce it necessarily. So these ay and aya are synonyms. So here, that means here, by the way, right? So ay, ghana loko, right? So ay or aya, whichever one you want. Ghana loko. Ghana loko means a lot of people. A lot of people. Ghana loko. Rahe che. Now, rahe che when we talk is usually pronounced re che. Not rahe, but re. Ain ghana loko re che. Ane when we talk is often pronounced ne. So ain ghana loko re che ne. Ghana prakar ni. So ghana again, we have ghana again. So a lot of Prakar is type. Prakarni, there are a lot of types of, that's what ni means in this context, of. A lot of types of what? Well, a lot of types of bhashao. Bhashao is languages. Bhasha is language. Bhashao, languages. So અહીંયા ઘણા લોકો રહે છે. So a lot of people live here. ને ઘણા પ્રકારની ભાષાઓ બોલાય છે. Bola is like is or are spoken. Blah blah blah. Anya bolaiche. It is spoken here. If you know what passive voice means, that's what that is. Like kind of like a passive voice. Passive voice is not something we've covered on this YouTube channel or on the podcast quite yet. We're not going to do that today, but I will do so in the future. It's not that important for the time being, so yeah, we'll leave it be. Parantu Parantu is a fancy word for but. Okay. Angreji means English. It's the Gujarati word for English. Angreji, Soti. I feel like I might have skipped this line actually. I don't remember reading it, but anyway, here we are. Soti Vadhu. Soti means like the most. Sorry, Soti. Let me actually switch screens here. Let's go over here so you have more space. So Soti, Sauthi, Soti is kind of like EST. So if I say like Soti Tundi, right? Soti Tundi, that means the coldest. Tundi, cold. Soti Tundi, coldest. Or like garam is hot, or garmi, well, let's use garmi. Soti garmi, hottest. So soti is kind of like that EST. If we say soti vadhu, now it means the most. Right? It's kind of like saying vadhu is like more. So morest, MOREST. But English, we don't have, oh my God, I have the morest amount of friends. No, that's ridiculous. I have the most amount of friends, right? Morest in English is most. So soti vadhu means most. So parantu Angreji soti vadhu. What's happening here? Bolaiche, right? We already had bolaiche earlier. It's spoken. This is probably the longest sentence in our text. So I'll read it out again. અહીં ઘણા લોકો રહે છે અને ઘણા પ્રકારની ભાષાઓ બોલાય છે. પરંતુ અંગ્રેજી સૌથી વધુ બોલાય છે. Long sentence. USAમાં ઘણા મોટો શહેરો છે. There are many big cities in the USA. So USAમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે. Again, this is spelled shahero, but it's pronounced shero. So USAમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે. Shero means cities. Again, share, no O, city. Shero, cities. So USAમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે. There are many big cities in the USA. જેમકે means for example or such as. જેમકે, and now we have a bunch of cities. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, right? So જેમકે, blah, 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 blah. For example, USAમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે જેમકે New York, જેમકે Los Angeles, જેમકે Chicago. One more thing I'll point out, I've talked about this before. Let's look at the word shero for a moment. So shero is plural, right? Share by itself is singular. That's like one city. When we have shero with the O, it makes it cities. Now it is worth pointing out that in Gujarati, let's give you some examples. Like Ben, share, for example, right? Let's use these two. We could say, for example, like basically pluralization is optional for like many words in Gujarati, right? So 2 pens could be be pen, but it also could be be peno, right? Ek pen, be peno, right? Or ghar, let's use Gujarati word. Ghar. Ek ghar, one house. Be ghar is correct, or be gharo is correct. Ek share, one city. Besher is correct, or beshero is correct. So that O to pluralize something is optional. Like some people do it, some people don't. It's completely up to you. The only time that pluralization is mandatory is if we have a word that ends in U or O. So if I have a word like darvajo, darvajo, darvajo means door. If I wanted to say doors, this is going to be darvajha. So that O is going to turn to A at the end. Okay, ek darvajo, be darvajha. Another one, let's take patangyu. Patangyu, right? In the plural, patangya. Why? Because it ends in a U. So patangyu ends in U. So anything that ends in U or an O in the plural must end in A. So I know it's a lot. You can do it though. I remember when I was learning, it felt like a lot too, especially those O's, like they felt so foreign to me. Like it was really tough. And I tried to memorize it, and I really just couldn't memorize it. It was really tough to like fully remember it. In the end, what helped me the most was what I realized eventually is like you just have to go with the flow. You just have to relax a bit and go with the flow and trust that if you let go, your brain will remember it. And that's what happened for me. Like I had to kind of let go and not over obsess over memorizing every piece of information and let my subconscious mind do the work. So that's highly what I'd recommend. That's really what I'd recommend for you too. Okay. અહીં સુંદર પાર્ક અને મોટા રસ્તાઓ છે. There are beautiful parks and big roads here. I don't like this English translation here underneath, wide roads. I think big or wide really can work. So again, અહીં સુંદર. Sundar means beautiful. Park is obviously park. અને મોટા રસ્તાઓ છે. Rastao means roads. You could also just say rasta for roads. That's also correct. My family says rasta, for example, but rasta o is just fine too. If it's one road, then it's rasto, just so you know. Local અહીં કામ કરે છે. So people work here. That's a simple sentence. I won't even write that one out. Local અહીં કામ કરે છે. They work here. ભણે છે. They study here. ને નવી વસ્તુ બનાવે છે. Let's actually write that out. Why not? Local અહીં or અહીંયા, both are correct. કામ કરે છે. So they work here. ભણે છે. ભણે means they study here or they study. અને navi means new, right? Vastuo is like things. Banave means they make. So they make new things. Oops, I went too far. And the last line that we did, Adesh technology. So this country, Adesh technology and Vignan. Vignan means science. Okay, so let me actually clear my screen here. There we go. So Adesh technology. There we go. Ane Vignan, again, Vignan is science. Mate means for, right? So mate. Parn means also. Janito means known. Che. So this country is also known, right, for science and technology. Okay. And yeah, that's that. So let me read this to you one more time so you can like hear it in full flow and see if you can understand it a bit more. Then I'll give you a couple of different practice exercises to practice everything that we learned today. United States of America ek moto desh છે. આ દેશ ઉત્તર અમેરિકામાં આવેલો છે. તેની રાજધાની વોશિંગ્ટન ડીસી છે. અહીં ઘણા લોકો રહે છે ને ઘણા પ્રકારની ભાષાઓ બોલાય છે, પરંતુ અંગ્રેજી સૌથી વધુ બોલાય છે. યુએસએમાં ઘણા મોટા શહેરો છે, જેમ કે ન્યુયોર્ક, લોસ એન્જલસ ને શિકાગો. અહીં સુંદર પાર્ક ને મોટા રસ્તાઓ છે. લોકો અહીં કામ કરે છે, ભણે છે ને નવી વસ્તુઓ બનાવે છે. And that's, oh yes, last line. આ દેશ ટેકનોલોજી અને વિજ્ઞાન માટે પણ જાણીતો છે. So let's give you some practice exercises here. I'm going to give you two different exercises. Exercise number one, I'm going to read this out in English. After each English line, pause and see if you can translate it back into Gujarati. So here we go. The United States of America is a large country. This country is located in North America. Its capital is Washington, D.C. Many people live here and many types of languages are spoken, but English is spoken the most. There are many big cities in the USA, such as New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. There are beautiful parks and big roads here, or wide roads here. People work here, study, and create new things. This country is also known for technology and science. So that's number one. So take those English sentences, translate them back into Gujarati now that we've gone through this together. The second exercise is one that I've talked about before. Let me stop my screen share and show you. I'll do it with you live. You might wonder, Azrin, where did you get that text? Did you write it yourself? Or like, how did you do that? Well, the good news now, I didn't have access to this before. The good news now is you can have an infinite number of reading comprehension simply by using any AI platform. So ChatGPT. So I literally use ChatGPT to generate that text. All you do is you write the following. Write me a text in Gujarati at I would probably do, if you're watching this video and this is roughly, if you've really watched all the videos up until this point and even really diligent with practicing at home, I would say A2 level is a good level to pick. Like write A2, right? If this is like a little bit hard for you, if you haven't really watched all my videos, it's like you're newer with Gujarati, you might do A1 level. Write me a text in Gujarati at an A1 level and include the English transliteration plus translation. Make the text, actually, even better, even easier for you. Write me 5 different texts like this on a variety of topics. And then it's going to make it for you, right? So it's going to give you, this is only one sentence, which is totally fine, right? 5 different texts right here. I'll usually coach my this AI to like give me like more of what I want. So if I read this, right, I'm like, I want more than a sentence. I might go rewrite each of the 5 and make them 10 sentences long. There we go. Right, so that makes it a little bit longer, right? If I wanted to make it slightly harder, I could say, for example, no, write me the same texts, but make them at an A2 level, paragraphs, not just random sentences like you've done. See how it's like giving you just a bunch of sentences in a way? Right, so now it's going to be a little bit harder. Like you can make it harder, easier. You can really play around with this. And that's how I create these texts for you guys, right? That's literally what I do. I just like coach the AI to make them, right? So yeah, I'd highly, highly, highly recommend that when you're at home, one of the top things you can do at home is literally just read different texts. Whether it's the Gujarati script like this, whether it's the transliteration, that doesn't really matter. Not really. It doesn't really matter. But read one of the two and try to translate it back into Gujarati. So read it, read the translation, try to translate it back into Gujarati. That's such a useful practice for you to get into. Like when so I'll tell you a little story, then we'll finish today's podcast. Lots of stories today that I told you. I'll tell you the following story. So, when I speak 5 languages, I'm learning a 6th language right now. and across pretty much every single language, I always wanted to become fluent. That's what I wanted. I wanted that fluency. I wanted to be fluent and also just feel comfortable. I think with me, fluency and feeling comfortable, they really go hand in hand, right? If you're more fluent, it's like you're feeling more comfortable. It's almost two things you want at the same time, at least for me. I would say the big problem for me though was understanding how to make fast progress. Like I could make slow progress. I figured out how to make slow progress. I became fluent in French in over 15 years. In Spanish, it took like 7 years, over 7 years. I can't remember the exact number, 7 or 8 years. And it was full-time studies. I wasn't doing like part-time. 15 years full-time, 7 years full-time. Mandarin has been like 10, 11, 12 years. So all these languages, I learned them slowly and gradually, but I didn't know how, or I didn't even know if it was possible to accelerate the process. I didn't know. And eventually I had an epiphany. I realized that if you can measure what methods are working for a specific person, you could be more productive. So when I started to learn a sixth language, which was Ukrainian, I developed different ways to measure which one of my efforts were working really well and what efforts were not working very well. That way I could actually, in an objective way, focus my efforts on the things that were working well and avoid the things that weren't working well. And the overall result was that, Ukrainian felt significantly easier to learn. I'm still learning it now, but oh my God, it's felt so much easier. And my progress has been significantly faster. In Spanish, for example, and French and Mandarin, and Gujarati for crying out loud, really, but like all other languages I've learned, I couldn't watch TV for many, many, many years. But in Ukrainian, I'm actually able to watch TV within the first year of learning. That's pretty crazy. That's a big difference. And so that was the big thing I learned, that we have to create measurement systems to find ways that help us to learn best. Now, I'm going to keep going with story, so you bear with me here. So then the next question becomes, are there certain things that work for pretty much everyone that you can measure and prove that they work for everyone? Right? Not just my opinion, but I could demonstrate with clear, objective data that this seems to work for most people. And a lot of the language learners that I meet, they want to become fluent, but the obstacle they're facing is that they the same one that I was facing, they don't know how to really learn it in a way that's relatively quickly, relatively efficient. And what we found when we tried different methods and we measured what worked best, what I found, what my students have found, what we found is that one of the best things you can do is read material at your level and listen to material at your level. Those are your two, like by far, those are the two most impactful things that you can do that unlocks more confidence, even with your speaking, with your listening, with your grammar. And so that's a big thing that I recommend to a lot of people. So when I show you this exercise with ChatGPT or really any AI platform to get it to write you different texts, we practice reading it, practice translating it back. This really is like a super activity, something that is so effective that even if you just do it a little bit, once a week or twice a week, like even just once in a while, even just one sentence, right? Like even if it's just like, I don't know, 10 minutes on one sentence, like going back up here, right? Something really short, even that is so powerful. Anyway, let's wrap this up here. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Aujo, bye.